monthly Fraud Fighters and Financial Wellness segment from American One Credit Union. We have Risk and Compliance Manager Angela Hadley and Financial Wellness Manager Collin Martin. Welcome back.
Yeah,
Good morning.
You guys. Good morning.
Big day today. What's happening?
Day.
Car sale.
First day of our car sale at the Westwood Mall.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Saw you guys setting up yesterday in the rain.
Yeah, it was a blast. You stopped in, helped
I
out.
just drove by and was happy that it hadn't started yet. But car sale is always fun, brings out the community, and I think it's like a comfortable time for people to buy a car, right?
Yeah, we try to make it as
Yeah.
easy as possible, having on-site lending there available for them.
Yeah, and there's always a good buzz there too. It's
Yeah.
always a fun, like you said, experience.
Yeah.
Food trucks.
Always
Oh,
food
yeah.
trucks,
Too.
Yep.
always.
We're going to talk a little bit about identity theft, and of course you see commercials all the time with all these services that can protect you. You hear all these stories nonstop. But Angela, what is identity theft and how does it happen?
Sure. So identity theft occurs when the bad actors steal your information, right? It's called personally identifiable information, and it's kind of the grouping of your name, your address, your social security number is a real kicker. And oftentimes this occurs, we've all unfortunately gotten those letters that say your information's been a part of a breach, and that information ends up on the dark web, and they just can go in and buy that information for really cheap, and then of course they work to use that information to obtain fraudulent loans, file tax returns, commit insurance fraud, things like that.
Just gets worse and worse too, doesn't it?
It really does, unfortunately.
If you think that you may have been a victim or you're starting to see some concerns, what should you do?
Sure. So the biggest thing, that we recommend to prevent yourself from being a victim in the first place is monitor your credit regularly, right? There's so many free options to do that these days. You have those alerts that you can set up, make sure you're keeping an eye on that stuff. And if you get one of those alerts that says that an inquiry has been done and it wasn't you, contact that company right away to say, hey, what's going on here? And you can try to hopefully stop it in its tracks. We also recommend placing a freeze on your credit. If you're not going to be obtaining credit soon, or even if you are, there's ways to unfreeze it. That also kind of stops them in their tracks, because even if they have your information, they try to get a loan, they're not really able to do anything with it because the company is going to say, wait a minute, there's a freeze here, and they can't proceed. So.
And Collin, this lines up with another reason why you want to track your spending.
Yeah.
You have a good handle on it, right?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're seeing, you should monitor your accounts regularly. That's something everyone should be doing, weekly, even down to maybe daily, depending on how often you use your financial account. But when you're tracking your spending, you can also look at your credit report to see, is it matching up? If you're seeing your credit score dropping a few points regularly, that can happen. But if it's dropping drastically, it's something you're really going to want to check into further.
People they can actually steal money from your account by stealing your identity, right?
Yeah, definitely. If they have enough of that information, and they're able to call your financial institution to make transfers or initiate a wire, something like that, they absolutely could tap into your account. So again, checking your account regularly is key in making sure that everything that's happening is legitimate.
How can tracking your spending help you maybe avoid fees down the road?
Yeah, so when you're tracking your spending and you're looking at your bank account regularly, you'll know how much you have available. And if you're overdrafting your account regularly, you're going to be paying $25 a transaction sometimes, and that can really add up. And if you're not tracking what you're spending, you could be overspending your account without even knowing about it.
I had a friend listen to this story. We were probably 19, summer job, and he overdrafted no less than 90 times, and the overdraft was on a bag of Funyuns and a Mountain Dew every single time.
Yeah.
Add that up, and I think it was like $35 times 90.
Who was that?
I'd rather not say.
Yeah, you can't out it.
I'd rather
That's
not
not
say,
fair.
but they exist.
They know who they are.
They exist.
Yeah, and it happens. We've seen it even when somebody would go to McDonald's and get just a drink,
Right?
And it's $1 transaction, and it just pulls them over by a couple cents, and unfortunately, that couple cents will take them over to the point where they get those fees. So, if you're just tracking your spending regularly, you'll know how much money you have to use, and then also it helps you save. Because if you're tracking your spending, you know where every transaction's going. So when we do financial counseling, we talk to people and have them track their spending for a month. And then you can actually categorize where your money's going. So you can say, did I really need this? It's in the bucket that I don't need.
Yeah.
So maybe the next month they can cut those things out to help them save more money.
Right.
Yeah.
People actually, so before the internet, we'd get the statement every month, we'd look at it or not.
Yep.
Now that it's so accessible online, are people actually being more, I guess, attentive to their spending?
I definitely think so. You know, the accessibility is there, right? It's you fingerprint login with a lot of these, online banking applications now, so it's so easy to know exactly what's happening. I do, and I know Collin recommends still keeping track on your own on a separate application because you just never know, right? Checks aren't necessarily, they don't show as pending, so you may not know that money's already accounted for. Or if you're using sort of, like you said, a checkbook app, that's going to allow you to know really, truly what's in that account at the end of the day when everything clears.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also when you're looking at your spending and you're able to access it online, it's very convenient. It's very easy. People just go on their app and see all their different transactions, and maybe it's just like a mental note of, oh man, I shouldn't have spent money on this. But really, when you physically write it down and you do the math at the end of the month and it adds up all the little transactions that you're like, man, I just needed a Coke or I just needed a candy bar from the gas station. When you really add those up at the end of the month, you'll see it's kind of like sticker shock. You see how much you spent on those little transactions, and it really kind of makes you more aware of where your money's going and ways to save more as opposed to just doing those little transactions and not really worrying about it.
Yeah, at the end of the month, I'm able to identify that I like candy.
Well, all the subscriptions that
That's-
people are
that's a lot,
throwing
yeah.
into, and they don't realize that it's, you look at it as a little Hulu, Paramount, Wall Street Journal. All these things, it can be, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and you don't need it.
Yep.
Yeah, and so you look at that too so when you do subscriptions, especially like Netflix, Hulu, stuff like that, when they raise their prices by that $1, people are like, oh, it's just another $1, that's
Right.
fine. Maybe they don't even see that. So when you're tracking your expenses, you can see, maybe my Hulu jumped up by $5 and I haven't been using it for the past 8 months. Why are you still paying for it? And there's also some apps out there that you can log into your online banking information and it will sync to it. So it will tell you if you're having duplicate subscriptions. And that's one way to track it. I have a friend actually that has an account with Planet Fitness in Kalamazoo, but doesn't live in Kalamazoo
Right.
anymore. And he's been paying on it for the last 2 years,
Right.
but he hasn't been able to cancel it
Yeah.
because he just found out about it.
Right.
And so that's a lot of money that he's just been throwing
Wow.
away
Yeah.
because he can't access that.
I think they make you drive over and cancel in person too.
On purpose, right?
Yeah.
Sales tactic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for all the tips, and great to see you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Angela Hadley and Collin Martin from America One Credit Union.